So hello, everybody. Welcome to a video version and an audio version of the Compassionate Capitalist radio show. Today, I have my guest, Diane Conklin, with me. I'm very excited to have her on the show today. We have known each other off and on through, internet marketing and through various networking events through the Atlanta community for many years, and just recently reconnected and had a very enlightening conversation about marketing not too long ago. And so I wanted to share that with the rest of the entrepreneurs and investors that are out there, because I think it's such an important part of what I do, which is helping entrepreneurs figure out how to grow their market presence, their brand presence, and in order to grow their customer base and their revenues, so that they can also, through that same process, attract the investors that are going to be most likely to invest in their project for growth capital. And it's so integrated in this, and there's definitely some schools of thought when you're out there marketing to, or people think about what their marketing strategy is, and they always seem to get into social media, and social media is the cat's meow. And maybe because it's partly old school, maybe because we've just been around for a long time, but Diane and I are like-minded in that it's a bigger universe than just social media, and you have to have a much bigger strategy when it comes to how you want to truly engage with customers, particularly when there's so much noise and so many ways for customers to be distracted or not engaged. So I want to introduce, now that she's been sitting here for a minute, introduce Diane to come into to start talking and introduce herself as well. Her company is Complete Marketing Systems, and that's really kind of what we're going to be talking about. So without further ado, welcome, Diane. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm good, Karen. Glad to be here. Glad to share a little wisdom, maybe stir some things up here a little bit, and see what kind of trouble we can get into.
Absolutely. So let's start out by talking about, your background. How long have you been, how did you get in? You run your own business and work directly with entrepreneurs and business owners. And so have you done that all along, or did you work for a big company at one point in time?
Well, it's interesting. I've been doing this for 25 years, running my own business. That just means I'm old. My educational background, I actually have a master's degree in exercise science.
Oh.
And, so I've done all kinds of things in that arena, kind of like I have in this one, right? I've worked with athletes. I've done, weight loss kinds of things. I've run government facilities, Gold's gyms, you name it. And I love that industry and all of that. But there was always I grew up on a 75-acre farm, and my dad was always the guy who, in addition to having 75 acres, he farmed 450 and always worked a full-time job. Yeah. And he was always kind of looking for, something. He did all kinds of what I would consider kind of entrepreneurial things. And so I think I sort of always had that in my blood. And so I was always looking for, what's happening, what's next, what else can I do, kind of thing. And stumbled along this guy named Robert Allen and got involved in a coaching program. This, again, way, way, way back. Right. And long story short, actually worked for a guy in Merritt Island, Florida, by the name of Ted Thomas, who you might know. He's a real estate investor, speaker kind of guy, for a year for no pay, learning the business. And at that time, most of the things were offline, but we did a lot of direct mail, a lot of event planning and that sort of thing, and really got to understand direct response marketing by having the honor and privilege of spending an hour every day with him, and the rest, as they say, is history. So.
Right. So very good. So let's sort of jump in here, because I swear when I see business plans all the time from entrepreneurs, they seem like they're always so transfixed on, really just social media and engaging through social media. And given that you and I are kind of old school in that we've been around on the internet marketing side back when newsletters and emails were and maybe a Google AdWord were the only ways that you really engaged with people. And there's always been this I feel like for businesses that have been around for a little bit that aren't necessarily startup and tech companies, there's always this sort of sense of which one should I get into. I feel like I have to get into some kind of social media marketing because that's what everybody says. So the first question is social media marketing, that's the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, are they can they do everything for everybody? And does everybody that's marketing as a business need to be doing those particular types of platforms?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to back up for just a minute. This isn't the question that you asked me, but I even dissuade people from doing business plans. When I talk to them about our marketing plans and working in a 90-day increment, right? I mean, as we sit here today, it's January. And so everybody's like, it's the word, what's your goals, all of that. And that's going to last about as long as people go to the gym, right? It's already started to dwindle.
I saw your blog article on that. My word was focus. So there you go.
There you go. See? So the point of it is, you want to be flexible. Now, to the question that you just asked me, is it all about social media? I'm going to tell you, no, it's not. One is always the worst number in business and in marketing and in life, really, unless you're married, in which case you should probably maintain that one. But here's the thing. Do you need a presence on social media? Absolutely. But it can't be the only thing that you're doing, because you know what? Here's the thing, Karen. We all believe that Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all of these things are going to be around forever. And maybe they will be. I don't know, because I don't have a crystal ball. And if I did, the dang thing would be wrong anyway, right?
Right.
But what I do know is this. A lot of people used to make their money faxing. Now you look at me like I'm a dinosaur if you talk about fax marketing, right? Yeah. This thing used to ring during dinner, right? Called telemarketing. That's now not a thing. So the people who were in business who were only doing those things, yes, I really did just pick up a phone with a lamp with a cord attached to it, okay? But the people who were only doing those things are now what I call OOB.
Out of business?
That stands for? You got it, darling. Out of business, right? Because they only did one thing. So you cannot put all your eggs in one basket. And who knows? Maybe Facebook and Instagram and things will be around for long before after we're gone. But there's already some social media things that have sort of gotten pushed by the wayside, right? I mean, what is it that we all started off with, right? It wasn't Facebook and Twitter.
MySpace.
MySpace, thank you. I kept wanting to say Snapchat. Yeah. I think that wasn't right? Pinterest has taken a little bit of a back seat already, right? So the point of the matter is, here's the thing. Social media is just like the internet. It's not a business. It's a media. Mm-hmm. Right? The internet is not a business. It's a media, just like radio, TV, and God forbid I say this word, right? The newspaper, right? Yeah. Advertising offline, direct mail. All of those things have to be a part of what you do when you're marketing. Now, let me just add this. Part of this depends on your client base. Part of this depends on where your target market is. Where are they hanging out? If they're on social media, then go there. Don't be doing direct mail if no one's responding. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. There's always, and I think people get away from this, but this old term, test and measure, right? You have split marketing, you have an A/B test or whatever. So whichever medium, and I think that's what you brought up about the marketing plan. So to me, when I talk to companies that are out raising capital, I say you have two kinds of business plans in effect. You have the one that is going to describe your business and kind of where you're going. There's sort of a summary that you use. Sometimes people do it within a pitch deck. They do something along those lines. It's really to convey a value proposition to an investor or funding source. And then you have the one that is really more like an operating plan. It's your blueprint where as you're building an organization, you're going to hire a marketing person. So you're going to have a skeleton of a marketing plan, and then you're going to give it to them to go and flush out and do, and they're going to take that section and go do that section. And your HR person's going to go do this and get these rules and things in place. And, you're going to have your operations person or your person that's responsible for distribution and things like that. And whatever. They all have their sections that is sort of your direction on where they're going to go. So everybody's kind of in line if it all comes out of a
and it's interesting. You are my exception to the rule for a business plan, right?
Right.
If you need a business plan, if you're going to the bank or to angel investors or VCs or anybody that you're asking, funding sources as you call them, right?
Right.
Then you need a business plan.
And then other than that, it's the strategic plan that you're talking about, and it's really kind of 90-day action plans. I tell companies, when I am coaching them and I'm teaching them how to raise capital, I say you have this plan, that's sort of this narrative, but within that you need to have a 90-day action plan that says when you get your funding, this goes along with your milestones. When you get your funding, this is because you don't get all your funding at one time. So this is what you're going to do when you get X amount of dollars in the first 90 days.
Yeah.
And then after that, based on the outcome of that, this is what you're going to do. And if there's something that you're trying to determine or decide, whether it's how did the customers respond to this, or you're trying to determine an exact price point or whatever, you're going to have information, particularly as a startup, as you go through. If you're an existing business and you're looking to grow your business, then it's going to, be customized to that. But it's so important to have this, so even if it's just something simple as what are your goals and then what are the steps to achieve your goals in that next 90 days. And when it comes to marketing and creating customers, part of that is understanding what's the sales cycle. So how long does it take them to make a decision? Because depending on how you market, you may have to establish that trust or that other piece a little bit better. So I know it's, in case people haven't heard this recently, it's always worthwhile with the latest information to, get what the latest. We talked a little bit about this when we were having our conversation last week. How many touches does it take for a customer to or prospect, and it may vary by type of product, but for a prospect to go from being somebody that is interested and realizing they're looking for this, or they already know that they want something that solves this particular problem, or they're finding a new way to solve a problem, before they'll make a buying decision that says they trust that particular vendor enough. And it touch a little bit on the difference between online. Everybody talks about reviews and how that plays versus in that, other people talk about this trust factor where they establish credibility because there's deeper knowledge about you in the marketplace. And this is where some of those presents become relevant, but that you can, within a digital space, establish trust versus other traditional ways of doing it.
Yeah. So first of all, let's back up for just a second, because one of the things that you said was about test and measure, right? Part of the problem with marketing in most instances, and one of the reasons that people have a tendency to sway toward social media, is because it looks like it's easy, right?
Yeah.
You should be measuring everything that you're doing, right? And there is a cost to every kind of marketing that you're doing, whether it's social media, whether it's direct mail. Some may look more direct than others, but even if all it is your time, there's a cost to the social media piece that you need to be measuring. I have a friend who says that he's gone away from all his social media and is doing direct mail because every other kind of marketing is too expensive. The reason he knows that is because he is measuring, and so many people don't measure, and so they don't know. So I just wanted to bring up that point.
And real quick then on that. So, on digital, you can measure it by clicks, and then what happens with those clicks is the best way to do it otherwise, or is there something where you have codes? What's one of the best ways to measure the effectiveness of?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't measure by how many likes I got. Who cares, right? Yeah. Because it's easy to get likes. They may not be qualified, but you can get likes. I could pay somebody, a very small amount of money to go get me thousands of likes from somebody overseas who's potentially never going to do business with me locally if I have a local business. So that doesn't help. So yeah, you want to be putting in codes. And here's my thing. You can measure clicks and you can measure all of those things. Again, what's relevant is one number, and I'm cookie cuttering this down to one thing. It's never that simple. Okay, if you're
Right.
looking for a cookie cutter, you should go to the kitchen, because that's the only place you can use a cookie cutter. They don't work in business. So if you're looking for these generalities, right? Oh, this is where you should go to. It's all about what works for you. It's all about individualize and customize. But that being said, you really want to look at return on investment, because you could be getting a lot of clicks, but as you just said, if no one's converting to a sale, then you've got to go fix that, right? So the clicks aren't what you measure. It's about how much money is it bringing in. So if I'm spending $10 to make 100, I'll do that all day, every day, right? If it's a 1 to 10 kind of return. So I always look at that return on investment. Now, is that the only number? No, and you can do that by putting in codes, by having mirror a website or mirror a landing page, for example, to have, these people from Facebook are going to this landing page that's / Monday. These people are going to the same landing page, but it's / Tuesday. So you don't have to be a technical geek in order to do these things, right? That's the other big misconception. I am probably the least technical person you know. I'm lucky I can make my cell phone work. I'm kidding. I'm not that bad. But I'm not the person who's inside of my CRM and doing all of that. We do simple, easy things, codes, those kinds of things. But it's all about what's my return on my investment. And so again, if you look at social media, if you're running ads, then people look at it and say, okay, I spent $20 and made 100 in sales. So that's a good ROI. But did you also take into account what you paid your person to place the ad? How much time, all of the different things. You've got to look at that. And so it's really about what's my return, because although you can't run your business like this for very long, for a while, if you're breaking even on your ad spend and what you're bringing in, if you understand and have a good back end and you're selling people other things, you can run a business that way for a really long time.
Sure. Now, and so part of it was, so like, is email marketing still part of it? This idea of soft touches? Because I've kind of gotten away from that myself. Just, I have a trickle marketing thing, but I haven't been as obsessed with the conversion off of social media into my email marketing. So when it comes to going back to that trust factor thing, how do you get that when you're in the digital space versus in email, and the value proposition, and what's some of the ideas?
It's an interesting thing, because we talk about, and it makes sense, right? Know, like, and trust. We have to build know, like, and trust. Okay, but let's look at a different scenario. If you walked into a doctor's office because you were sick and you're brand new to a city, and the doctor says, drop your drawers, I'm going to give you a shot, or drop your drawers, I need to examine blah. Did you build any know, like, or trust with him?
No, yeah.
None, right? So here's the reason that I made that analogy is this. You don't have to have some big, long 28, 37, 129 step sequence, right? Everyone's talking about marketing funnels, and you need a system by which people go from meeting you to buying. That's all that is. It's a theoretical path that people take from the first time that they're aware of you until they say yes to buying. That's a marketing funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
do you want to know what the fastest marketing funnel is?
Yes.
In the whole world?
What is it? Oh.
Hello, Karen. How are you today?
No.
Oh, right? It's the phone call. It's the reach out and the connection on social media. It's the networking event where you schedule an appointment with somebody, right? It doesn't have to take 6 months, and it doesn't, now, depending upon the industry, I understand that. But we all think of, well, we have to build know, like, and trust, and we have to put content out, and no, you don't. You've got to make a connection. You've got to be able to know what the thing is that this person wants, what's their pain, what's the thing they want solved. And you can do that by asking 4 or 5 questions and moving into, let me tell you how I can help you solve this. I call it prescriptive selling. And I call it prescriptive selling because I'm never going to sell somebody something they don't need. I'm never going to put them into a coaching program, product, consulting thing that's higher than what they're ready for. And you find that out not by some slick marketing funnel, but by communicating with them. And for a lot of people now, I know you're under the table because the very thought of talking to someone or picking up the phone is intimidating, right? Because we grew up in this world that says you don't have to talk to anybody anymore. We can just magically do things online, and you can automate things. What I'm saying is it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about even now, whenever I'm trying, when I've going to sign up for one of these big, let's say, conferences or attend a big training session that's got a big dollar amount. I think some of that is probably associated with dollar amount, and then and the complexity of whatever is somebody's selling, right? Because then and I remember they would monitor clicks, like if you responded to an email, but then I would get a phone call. I would get a phone call asking me, and even in some of these free seminars that you go to where they're teaching you how to do real estate investing or something like that, still get a phone call. You know what I mean? That would be, some of these big conferences, sometimes they would just, confirming it now. There's a phone bank of people that are doing that, but still. So,
but it's so rare that you remember it, right? So when somebody reaches out, here's the great thing. It doesn't have to be you, right? Hi, this is Sam, and I'm calling from Karen Rands' office. People go, wow, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen very often. And the real key, Karen, is always exactly what you just said, is knowing your clients, knowing your industry, and knowing what works inside of that. Now, the caution I'll give you is don't take old paradigms and don't take, well, everyone else is doing it this way. Find out what works for you,
right,
inside of your business, right? Well, everybody's doing it. Why it's working for them, it's not working for me. Well, first of all, how do you know it's really working for them, right? It could be an illusion or a illusion, as I call it. It could be an illusion. And the other thing is that if you're doing what everyone else is doing, you look like them. So you're just one of the crowd.
Yeah. Well, and this, I want to, because I want to bring back a point as well, that when it comes to understanding the types of marketing, I guess, and the ways that you can potentially reach out there and touch your customer, the thing that I always try to make new entrepreneurs aware of, and one of the services that I sell, that it seems like there's so much misinformation that people are gaining that they don't really get. One of the reasons why they're sort of stuck on social media is that there's only so much value proposition you can convey in a banner ad or in a 140 character thing, or even less when it's a Google AdWords or something like that, or a Facebook ad, and there's like an image, and they talk about how you need to have a video, a little short Giphy, and they got these little people that are move or whatever to try to get your attention and stuff like that. But there's no value proposition explained. So if you're not doing it by phone, they have to, at some point in time, you've got to capture them seeing 30 seconds of something that your value proposition is, if you're selling any kind of consumer product or product that an individual makes a decision on, and not sort of like a company. And so as much as they say that traditional advertising's dying, there's still think about every brand that is common amongst many people. They know about it because of either TV ad that was reinforced or a video that comes in at the beginning of something they're watching online. So it could be an inserted video there, but it's still a video ad. It's still a commercial. And it's then reinforced. That message or that value proposition, that's their little 30-second sales call, is reinforced with things that they may see on social media, or then when they go and they Google that company name, then it pops up and they've got the reinforcement of maybe an interview with them on some line. That's one of the things that we do for the trust factor. They're interviewed by some, person that, you know, they get to tell their story or talk, act like they're important, whatever, they're trustworthy. And then they get to, they've got their social media presence, then they may see reviews or interaction with other people, or they see somebody else within their community that's also connected, whether they're other followers on Twitter or on Instagram or anything like that. So then they get that peer review kind of the crowdsourced validation. You know, so if it's a neighborhood business, then it's your people in your neighborhood that have shopped there or bought something there or used that doctor or, you know, things like that. But it's, you know, there, you have to I think it's really important, and you know, give me your multiple cents worth on this is, you know, that how do you get that value proposition? If people won't read an email, if they won't, it just seems like video becomes such a huge part for it, and you have to find out where that audience is, and then depending on your demographic, they may or may not be watching videos online that way. They may actually still be watching videos in some form of a traditional manner, which is, you know, commercial or something along those lines.
Yeah, so one is you just reinforce what I've been saying, right? Which is you've got to be in multiple media and you've got to be omnipresent, because you don't know when people are going to see you. Right? So if you're only on one thing, you very much limit yourself. So one of the biggest compliments I get is people say, "Oh my gosh, I see you everywhere." And I always do a little inside when they say that. I always do the little bit of that. Right? Exactly. That's what I want. Here's the other piece, right? Is if you start comparing yourself to a Coca-Cola or a Toyota or an American Express, right? Because we see them on TV and everybody knows their logos and their names and all of that. You're in trouble because you don't have multiple millions of dollars to put your logo out there and just keep, right? Sorry for but it's the repetition. We typically, people, you know, used to be, we said 5 to 7. Now the statistics, and you know, 98% of all statistics are made up, including that one. The statistics show now it's 7 to 12 times. People have to see something, see you, see your program, see your product in order to take action. Now, there are always exceptions, right? I see something, I like it, I go buy it, right, the first time. But it is that repetition. It is that being in multiple media. It is that consistent message. But to the point of your question of the value proposition, sometimes from strictly a marketing, right? So there's two sides to this. There's the piece that says, I want to give people value and I want to show them how great I am, right? I want to show them the value of this product. And that's great. And sometimes that works. But then the marketing piece is, how do you show them that in a way, for lack of a better word, that's sexy, right? That grabs their attention, that makes them go, or pause, right? Or stop for that second that you can grab them. And so to me, it's a combination of those two things, right? It's about always being who I am and who I want to represent and that honest kind of thing, and not the bait and switch and not the all sizzle, right? You got to give them some steak too. And you've got to find ways to do that pretty quickly. You brought up video. You know, there's so many easy ways to video now. You've got live stream on Facebook. You can do videos on LinkedIn. You could do snippets. Now you can do video on Instagram. You know, there's YouTube, which is a huge video channel. The problem is people are shy. Oh, I don't want to do it in front of the camera, right? All of these things that people do. And I'm like, look, it's okay to have a piece of paper in your hand and say, you know, look, I've got notes. And go through those points. It's okay to screw up. I do all the time, and I just make fun of myself, right? You could edit it out if you wanted to, but I'm just me. You know, my hair's not perfect. My makeup ain't great. I might have a wrinkle in my shirt, or, you know, I say the wrong thing. You know, I just laugh and make fun of myself. The more, from a small business perspective, the more you're just you, the more people love you.
Right.
And the more you talk about, you know, the fact that your hair isn't right today, or, you know, look, I've got this little thing back here, or, you know, I had this happen this weekend, or you know, whatever. The more you talk about you, your challenges and all of that, the more people are drawn in, the more people relate, because you're not just perfect. And I guarantee you, when you share something you're uncomfortable sharing, you're going to get people who say, oh my gosh, me too. Oh my gosh, you've been through that too?
Yeah.
Right? So that's the piece with video. You don't have to be perfect. Hold a piece of paper up, drop stuff, spill stuff. Nobody cares except you, you know?
Right.
But it's a great, here's the greatest part about video is we've been talking about multiple avenues, right? So with video, you shoot it one time. You've got video now, you can pull the audio from that, you can have it transcribed, you can turn that into articles, into social media tweets. There's so many things now you can do with one thing that you did. Now you've got like easily 25 different ways you can use that.
Yeah, and I also think that video becomes a huge part of that, like you mentioned, authenticity, because you're not just somebody, you've got something that either because of your value of what you believe in your product or what you're offering, and you become relatable because they can see the person behind it, particularly if you're in an independent business. But even if you're like in my case where I work with companies for raising capital, if you're trying, the biggest challenge that we have with the different ways that people can raise capital now when they're not just going and pitching to a group of angels, yeah, they can do all kinds of things online and they can attract people online to look at their deal. But the odds of them sitting down eyeball to eyeball like they can in a traditional setting of raising capital where they can sit across the table from the investor and see them and answer questions like that, they don't have that same benefit. And if all they have is that sizzly video that is, the sales video on their offer page, then it's usually a voiceover of somebody else. There's usually actors in there. They might be in there some, but it's not really them. So it's really important to have some other additional content where you're talking about the knowledge of what you have that builds that trust. And when it comes, whether it's the customer that's converting and trusting that you're going to do what you say as whatever provider for that product or service, but also from an investor standpoint that they believe that they can relate to you and they're ready to, give up some of their own money to put into your deal because they trust you. It becomes a big part of it, and it's not just the hype of a sales video.
Yeah, and you know what'll do that faster than anything? This is a big tip, and I'll tell you how I know this. And this just happened. It's your story.
Mm-hmm.
It's your story, and I'll tell you how I know this. So you know about the Peloton bike, right? You know what I'm talking about? The bike where you sit and you can do the workouts.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, now they have a treadmill. But interesting enough, I was talking to a business associate of mine the other day, and we were talking about it's the first of the year, and yeah, he's going to start exercising again. And he said, I bought a Peloton bike a few months ago. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, you want to know why I bought it? I said, tell me. He said, I was reading or watching, I can't remember which now, an article or a video thing, I can't remember. But the point is, the story about the guy who started the company, the Peloton. And he said the guy's story was just so amazing, and what his vision for the fitness industry and the changes that he wants to make, and it being interactive and all of this. He said, I was so impressed. He said, I wasn't thinking about buying a piece of exercise equipment.
Oh, really?
Let alone a Peloton, because they're not cheap. Yeah. I think they start at like $1,000, right? And so he said, I ordered this thing and had it delivered. And he said, the mistake he made, he said, was that he didn't go ahead and order the shoes with it, because apparently that makes a big difference. But he said the story, Diane, this guy's story just had me like, I was like leaning in, right? And that's what you want. Look, if you ever go somewhere where someone's speaking, whether it's a networking event or you've paid to go to an event or whatever, watch people's body language. When people are telling stories, especially stories related to them, if people are leaning in, literally leaning in like this, the speaker has them. Or if you're speaking, you have them. If people start to do this,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Bye, exactly, right? So it's that, and that's what he said. He said, I was so enthralled by the story. So here's the thing. You don't have to make up content. You don't have to have a big sizzle reel, because you know your story. You know your story better than anyone.
Yeah.
And it'll get them. It works every time.
Yeah. So you're coming up on a little over 35 minutes now. So I would, in the interest of people being able to be engaged and lean in on this, tell people how they can reach you to get more information and engage with you to help them with their marketing plan or their strategy, or just have like, there's something that you offer to folks, and then we'll start to wrap up.
Sure. The easiest thing is my main website, which is completemarketingsystems.com. You can find me on all the social media at /Diane Conklin, which is my last name. I try to keep it pretty simple. Or, if you want to reach out direct, just shoot an email to info@completemarketingsystems.com. Those are the easiest ways to get in touch. And I promise that I will be in touch typically within 24 hours. So, but completemarketingsystems.com is the main website. And there's a lot of information there. But if you have questions, I'm happy to schedule a time and talk to anybody who I can help in any way.
Okay, great. And of course, you can see with my banner behind me, my website is KarenRands.co. And there's all kinds of information there and videos and my blog and my contact form to whether you're somebody that would like to partner up, or an entrepreneur seeking capital, or an investor seeking to learn how to do due diligence and do best practices when it comes to investing. That's what the book is all about. That's where how you get in touch with me. And likewise, all my social media is my name. So I think if I was to put this into a nutshell on sort of what's the takeaway of all this? So I'm going to do what I think it is, and then you can say what you think it is, okay? And then we'll say our goodbyes. That it's figuring out who your audience is, the authentic customer, and then meeting them where they are when it comes to how they get the information. And there's all different ways to go about. There's some is more expensive than others, but none of them are free. And the real bottom line is when you become relatable and authentic because of the story that you tell about either why you want them to buy the product or how you came to do what you do, then that's when you connect with them and you can cut through a lot of that traditional touches and pieces and parts and everything like that, when they finally understand and they get to relate to you. And that often comes through the story. Is that pretty much it in a nutshell, or what would you like to add, Diane?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think the other thing is, I always want people to do this in a really strategic, leveraged way. When you think about growing your business, whether that means monetarily or more customers or whatever, right? It's about the strategy. So everything that you and I talked about really boiled down to what I call backward planning. What do you want? And it's not about the money, right? That's never the end piece. It's I want more clients, or I want whatever that thing is, and then backward plan how you're going to get there. When you start looking at your business in a more strategic way, then all of this makes sense, right? And you can sit down and spend some time thinking. As my dad used to say, the most important 6 inches. It's not what you see. I knew it. It's not what you think.
It's right
here, right? Between your ears.
I
often tell people when I speak, when I talk to them, when I'm teaching, I'm not here to, and I think I said this to you the other day, I'm not here to teach you anything. You may didn't learn anything today you didn't already know. But if you're thinking differently right now than you were 35 minutes ago, then, good. Success as far as I'm concerned. So, and the other piece I would just add real quickly, Karen, is that target market piece. Who your client is something that most people don't spend enough time on. It's not, it's real estate investors. It's a very specific person. It's a very, demographic, psychographics. Anybody, by the way, I've got a checklist. If anybody wants it, shoot me an email and let me know that you heard me speaking with Karen, and I'll give it to you at no charge. It's not a problem. But I really think that's it, right? Go out and have some fun in your business. Bring the fun back. Do the things that you love to do. Enjoy yourself. Be strategic. And, that's what it's about. Touch people's lives, making a business while making a difference. So yep. That's really what it's about.
Well, with that, I think that's about the best way to wrap it up. So thank you very much, Diane, for joining me today and recording this for our audience of entrepreneurs, business owners, and investors. And, looking forward to having a great year with all of our special words. And I always say onward and upward. So
that's right. Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on and trusting me with your folks. So,
Okay, great. Thank you, Diane. Bye-bye.
thanks. Have a good day.